All right, I call to order the Gladstone City Council special meeting for September 7th, 2021 at 5:30 PM for the Governor's Executive Order 20-16 regarding compliance with Oregon's public meeting laws. The City of Gladstone is abiding by social distancing requirements during the coronavirus pandemic. This meeting will be conducted in person for the councilors and staff and using the Zoom platform for attendees. The Zoom access instructions can be found on the meeting agenda. Members of the City Council, staff, and the public all have access to this meeting. The special meeting was called by Councilor Tracy Todd, and I want to confirm with the attorney, the other councilors that supported this meeting was Councilor Tracy, Councilor Hartman, and Councilor Ripley. Is that correct?
Correct.
3 councilors are needed to call a special meeting per our requirements. There will be no public comment allowed. We will not have a consent agenda, business from the audience, nor business from the City Council. The only item to be discussed is that of transparency and accountability with recent events regarding City Council governance to discuss accusations written in the Pamplin media. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Here. Yes. Present.
Here. Here. Here.
Here, Tracy, since you called the meeting, could you start, please?
Yeah, I had part of my original email. I want to walk back a little bit. I specifically want to only talk about what's on the agenda today. And one of my biggest concerns is that a lot of stuff has been written in the local paper, and it's with quotations from you, Mayor, and from other former city councilors, and saying that we have a pattern of questionable behavior in the city. I feel like that's very unfair, and I'd like to sort of air that out. Like, what can we do to not have that be how we describe each other? What we can do better in the future to, when complaints come up. We talked about it at our strategic planning in 2020. These people weren't even on council at that time. We went to talk about it at our March meeting, 2020. I wasn't there. I think we barely quorumed when I go back and look at the information. And it was decided that we would talk about it and what we wanted to do and how we wanted to move forward in May 2020. The whole world went crazy about 5 days later, and it never came back. We have a new council now. I'm exhausted talking about, reading about things that happened in 2017. I wasn't on city council in 2017. Really exhausted talking about a former city councilor, where she lived and didn't live, since in, I think, June, she submitted 5 pieces of documentation that can be used as government documentation to say where she lived. So what do we want to do to move past this? Because it's exhausting for everybody, I think. So does anybody have any ideas of what we want to do with this?
I have an idea.
Okay.
So I think we need a council oversight committee.
We talked about that in 2020.
Many of the jurisdictions have them. It takes our hands out of policing anyone, or I don't, if I'm using a wrong word, I apologize. My thought was that it be kind of like, I don't know if any of you have ever gotten jury summonses from Gladstone. My husband's gotten them, I have not. I believe it's voters within the city. Personally, I think that anybody that would be on the committee maybe would be a voter that has been a registered voter long enough to have voted in a presidential election. 2 people can't be in the same household. And it would be complaints from registered voters with a Gladstone address only. That's what I was thinking.
Would that,
All of it is open for discussion.
right. You're just sort of doing a parameter
Yeah.
on that.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, because that was one of the discussions that did come up in the strategic planning of 2020. And, you know, the complaint against former counselor Neese was an anonymous postcard that was sent to the council, most likely from a neighbor. Well, she said she was a neighbor that said she was watching the house and knew what was going on. Do we accept that into this kind of scenario? Because that could be a lot of time spent because there's a lot of anonymous letters sent in this town.
I think if you're paying a water bill, that's bona fide. You know, if a bill is in your name, that to me says that you live at that address.
Right.
My daughter does not live at my address. I get bank stuff, I get medical stuff, I get a lot of stuff. I'm sure you do too. With, you know, you have adult children out of your house, you just get a lot of their leftover mail. But if they're not paying a bill in your house, I don't know. It's just.
So we're talking about Linda's residency. Is that what we're talking about here?
Absolutely.
Well, I meant that when you get a complaint from somebody and it's written and it's anonymous, I mean, do we want
No,
to?
we don't pay attention to that.
Because that one was anonymous. We all know, I mean, knew who it was based off of her explaining her location of where she lived, but it was submitted as anonymous. And I think that those are things that we need to really talk about, because this narrative that we are pushing for, you know, non-transparency, non-accountability is offensive. It's untrue. And I want to get this over with. That's how I feel about it. So that's why I wanted to talk today.
Well, I agree. So does that also go for like Counselor Neese herself got up in front of the council one day? I remember sitting in there and she wanted to read an anonymous letter.
Right. And
That-
we stopped that after that. That
Well,
was,
she did read it. That's what I mean. So that, and that's one thing that shouldn't be
no,
given a lot of, you know,
credence to.
exactly.
No,
Yeah,
I agree. If
okay.
you're not prepared to
Right.
sign your name, I don't know. Chad?
Well, we also had people come to council's business from the audience and make statements about her not living in Gladstone. That had
I
been
don't
going
recall
on for
that.
a while. So I'm not sure why we didn't do anything prior to that anonymous letter coming in, but I mean, we didn't even do anything really then.
No, we said that we were going to discuss it and she submitted the paperwork and the world went sideways at that point. So I think that's why let's nail it down. Let's nail down the plan.
I have to agree with that because I am the one that took the picture
Which picture?
of the 4 counselors.
Mhm,
We all know that picture, right?
mhm, mhm.
Nothing ever happened to them either. So I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't
I
on
know,
council.
I know,
Mhm,
I wasn't either,
mhm.
but I mean, you can't do this.
Mhm.
You're doing it. So what, see ya.
Mhm.
I mean, so there's gotta be, yeah, we gotta have something in place.
Right.
I
right.
agree.
And we need to be very wary of having rolling quorums. I mean, I got called today saying that you all had lunch dinner together yesterday and I
No
drove a
happy hour.
happy hour.
Yeah.
Was it to discuss tonight?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Okay,
The only thing we talked about was some of the losses,
okay, because it
Specifically
it
for
could be
fire
perceived
station.
as that.
and we talked about parks.
But
Okay.
We
three's
have
not
a
a
couple
quorum.
great ideas.
No, I know, but I drove by and saw you talking to Counselor Tracy later on, so that's why I
But
was
I didn't,
concerned.
he didn't know he didn't even know I'd met with them.
No,
or
I know you
yeah,
would be the only
yeah.
one that would know this, and
Yeah,
so that's why
yeah.
I was asking. We just need to be
No,
very
well,
careful
you are.
of
I
those.
am very careful. 'Cause
those-
I'm not gonna, yeah. I'm
How
not
about the
gonna-
optics of it, though?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've never had dinner with you, have I, Counselor Hartman? No, you came to my house to
Get some eggs.
some eggs, yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
oh,
I think, I mean, why I supported this meeting
Mhm.
was a little more like present day stuff.
Mhm.
You know, in January, we all sat here and talked about how we were going to be nice to each other basically and not talk about each other and drag each other through the mud. And then you think it's okay to call me uncivilized in the newspaper, or I'm not transparent or accountable. Everything I've done has been on camera. So it's like, I don't know what those accusations are. Those are the things that I want to get on the table. I'm not going out there. I'm never going to waste my time to talk poorly about any of you, whether or not I agree or don't with certain actions. But that's not okay. That's not okay to do that. And then to like single the 3 of us and not include Council Ripley, with all due respect, when he exploded in a meeting, but yet I'm the uncivilized one because of what? I don't know. And so those are the things that I want to stop. Like, I don't want to wake up every Wednesday or Tuesday and see whatever low budget rent article comes out in pamphlet media. Like, I think I speak for a lot of my constituents who are sick and tired of it as well. And so like that's what I want to talk about.
That's fine. Yeah,
Is
it
how
was a broad, it was.
We don't like, I love that idea, but like, how are we going to enact it? And what are they actually going to do?
Mhm.
Like we can have it, but like, what are our repercussions for going against our council rules? You know, those are the things I think we need to establish before like saying like, we're going to have a council oversight committee, but what is their role? You know, like, how are we going to be held accountable for our actions if we have this, you know, oversight committee, right? Because
Right.
it's like, it could just be the same thing that we're doing now, having the same conversation about how we're supposed to play nice with each other.
Mhm.
Again, this is the second time we're having this conversation, and it's a waste of time. And I think it's ridiculous that, like, I don't understand why. Like, I just don't get it. Like, why we're wasting our time, you know? Yeah, I don't have any.
So one of the things I think I would have to ask is what's the difference between a newspaper, next door Gladstone, Facebook accounts, and talking to your neighbors? It's all social media. It's all social media. So
I think it's because it's in our council rules that we'll obtain appropriate permission before representing, you know, within the media. Like, it just,
But
following the
what I'm
rules.
asking is, what's the difference between those mediums?
Well, let me help you with that question.
Okay.
Because I think there is a difference.
Okay,
Make sure you speak in.
A newspaper
yeah,
typically follows journalistic guidelines. There are sets of principles that are tied to journalism. And, you know, a journalist does 3 and verify. They make sure that they have 3 sources. In most big newspapers, you can't even print an article unless you have the verification of 3 sources or more. I'm not a journalist, but I understand a little bit about this.
okay.
Very different than social media. So I wouldn't equate a newspaper, a true newspaper and with true journalistic integrity to social media. So I think there is a difference. And you'd have to talk to a journalist who's gone to journalist school to tell you, journalism school, to tell you the difference. But that's what I understand, is that you don't have just a platform in a newspaper, and, you know, somebody who's actually a journalist has to, they have a set of guidelines and principles that they follow. Somebody on social media doesn't necessarily have to do that. Speaking of the newspaper, I'm curious because I understood that when our former city administrator left, there was a severance, I understand, and there were conditions on the severance. If I'm mistaken, tell me I'm mistaken, but I understood there were conditions on the severance about the city council not talking about that particular city administrator. And in the newspaper, I was kind of shocked to see the word corruption tied to the former city administrator. So I'm wondering if we've heard from his attorney yet.
I have not heard from anyone about this subject other
Okay.
than you right
So
now.
my understanding, and this is part of the reason why we've really steered away from that conversation for the last 4 years, is that there was a severance deal made. And in that severance, there was some information, there was supposedly a paragraph that said we weren't supposed to speak about the city, former city administrator. And I see in the newspaper, we are speaking about the former city administrator.
To be 100% honest with you, I'm not prepared for that
Okay.
question. I haven't gone back and looked at that severance agreement. I can tell
Honestly, I
you,
looked at it and just saw that.
yeah, I can tell you that typically there's, in most severance agreements, there's something called a non-disparagement clause,
Yes.
which, you know, would potentially apply to what you're talking about. But without looking at the specific language you're talking about, without looking at the actual agreement, I'm not prepared to
Not
provide any
meaning to
comment.
sideswipe you,
Yeah.
I just noticed it myself.
Okay.
And for me, that's like, again, we put ourselves into another potentially a liability position. And this is because somebody needs to go to the newspaper and talk. And I think that that's just, I mean, we're not thinking about the city here. This is really more personal stuff. It's not really city business. So my 2 cents.
Yeah, I've been on city council now 2.5 years, and nobody from Pamplin Media, Raymond Rendelman, has never called me. He's never emailed me. He did when I was running, and actually I had to correct him on some stuff. So I'm sort of wondering who's reaching out to who and what the point is on these things. What is the point? Because, you know, if we're going to investigate everything, there is also in the last article, I think, which was on the 30th, or no, August 14th, I believe, where Mary, you said that Counselor Tracy shouted at you and has been intimidating. I'd like to know when that was, what day, what the subject matter was. Have you guys had conversations outside of this? It's
That
in the
was-
paper, so it must be real.
Yeah, apparently so.
I mean, you can correct the record. I mean, if it's not true.
I can certainly correct the record. I would have added a lot more than what I had in there.
Okay.
But I didn't do that. And that was a small piece of a very lengthy conversation,
Mhm.
an interview where he called me to talk about the 2 recalls that were filed against me by Mr. Scott Blessing.
Mhm.
So that was the intent of the interview.
Oh, even though
So-
it went under the counselors opposed investigating one another. So those sort, because they were like 2 days apart or something that they came out.
Mhm.
Okay. So he has
So
not
I-
shouted
so
at you.
That
and-
was obfuscated, like, that was not me calling the mayor. That's Raymond Rendelman calling the mayor.
Right,
asking
right,
for
right,
a
right. Yes.
I want that clear and all.
Okay, no, I'm
We have not
I'm
had a
not an
conversation,
attorney. I just
to
play
the
one.
best of my knowledge, and I've checked my phone probably for months,
Uh-huh.
months, months.
Are you guys willing to have a conversation?
No.
No, not
Okay.
now.
Okay, well, there,
Absolutely
there,
not. Thank you very much for asking, though, Greg, but no, I am not.
okay. Well, that's what the citizens are seeing right now,
That's fine.
our division.
Well, understood.
And,
Oh,
you
it's
know,
not a division with you. It's the division with the journalistic integrity. So no.
I know, I'm just saying, that's what, I hear about it a lot. I've got, okay, y'all know I have no social media.
Mhm.
I could show you over 100 screenshots I get sent every day on
Me
things
too.
that are being said on Facebook and all that. That's not really nice. And I thought, like we said, we agreed in January, none of us were gonna do that. We are gonna all have each other's backs and move forward and
Mhm.
progress for the city. And that's,
And
that
not all
takes
of us did that.
that takes conversation too, when you have a problem or you don't know what someone else is thinking. I've reached out to everyone, you haven't I?
Mhm.
And I just say, this is what you and I've talked, this is how, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What can we do about that? And I think that's the best way to handle anything in-house with us. You know what I mean?
Well, when you
Because-
have a recall, 2 recall petitions filed against you, that kind of changes things a little bit. And then especially when I'm getting screenshots and phone calls about you, Counselor Hartman, you, Counselor Tracy, you, Counselor Ripley, and you, Tracy Todd, actively supporting that recall, well, then it absolutely changes the dynamic.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
a completely false statement because I've made it a point not to support this recall because we all decided that in January, we were not going to talk poorly.
It's
It is
true to
not up to
somebody.
me. It is not up to me. It is up to our citizens. I will support them with whatever they want, but I have not been actively supporting that. So please don't say that.
All right?
No, you haven't. No, and I definitely changed my mind on that after I had 2 clients walk in the office after reading the article where we were thrown under the bus. Half the council was thrown under the bus by you, Mayor. And that's when I lost my mind a little bit because it did hurt. It felt like we had made plans, we had made agreements with each other and they were gone. So it's very difficult. So
And that-
what are we going to do to fix it? Or can we? Maybe, it's,
The only thing, if you're asking me, I would say like, what fixes every problem I have is reaching out to you, having our conversation.
But
I feel better when.
I agree with Counselor Alexander, but what we're seeing though is we go to the table, we say, this is what we're gonna do, and we've done this for 4 years. We've had retreats, we've had, the council together. We say what we're gonna do. And then, Mayor, frankly, then you go off on another tangent on something and we're all sitting there kind of guffaw. And this has happened multiple times and I thought we were set and then January hit and then we had the other thing with Mr. Osborne. I'm just like, everything we do when we sit together and we say, okay, we're gonna do this and go forward in a positive manner. Like in the conversations I've had with others, social media gets wound up in a reactionary mode. Right now, they're not talking really about the mayor. They're talking about other issues in the city. But when the ball drops, then they go to that topic. It's really hard for us to manage. And by the way, when I say, no, I'm not interested in a conversation with the mayor, that's not saying I'm not interested in moving business forward for the city or cooperating. Right now, I've been basically in this mode where my character has been attacked over and over and over. And it's constant, the only thing that's saving me is the people that actually know me who know that, I'm going to just say this, considering the source. considering the source. Sorry, but that's frank. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yes, I'll move forward in a positive manner, but I don't see a kumbaya happening anytime soon with us. I think we're all really we're kind of stretched. Counselor to counselor.
Sad to hear. I mean, for me.
Yeah,
For me.
I'm sad about it.
I'm
too.
new. Counselor Hartman's new. We, thought we were getting in a positive thing here, gonna make a difference, and Counselor Garlington.
Well, we're here for the business of the city. We're not here to be friends.
Mhm.
Not gonna
Hey,
happen.
you said it a number of times, Mayor, but we're also not
Yeah.
here to completely
So-
assassinate each other's character.
So we're here to do the business of the city, and that's what we need to focus on. And if we can't put personal issues aside and focus on our professional responsibilities, then there's no reason to be on this council.
With all due respect, you're the only person who can't put their personal issues aside.
That
You
is
are the only
incorrect.
one who is in this newspaper calling my native ass uncivilized.
You're native.
Okay. You are the only one who cannot put their personal issues aside. It's time and time again, we see that. How have I not been accountable? How have I not been transparent? How have I been uncivilized? You get to say these things but not answer to them? And then you have the audacity to sit here and say that we all need to put our personal issues aside? Believe me, every time I log onto the computer, I put my personal issues aside.
Okay.
So you're just not going to answer.
Well, no,
my
what I am
against
going to say is I got 2 recall petitions filed against me, and I did not say a word about them until I got called from the newspaper. And I'm absolutely
great.
going to defend that. So
Nothing that
stand
I
by
said
my
about you
ability to
is in the, I'm
defend,
not doing the recall. I'm not the petitioner.
But I can defend myself for the recall. and
By
that's all
throwing
I
half
have to
your
say
council
about
under
it.
the bus.
That's all I have to say about
You
it.
can defend yourself by throwing half your council under the bus. Is that what you just said?
That wasn't what the entire thing was about. It was a very lengthy conversation, and I'm sorry that only pieces of it came out. But it
I
doesn't
mean, it
matter.
was 2,500 and something words. I mean, you had an
Yeah.
opportunity probably to edit it.
I actually submitted more than that.
So you submitted this.
actually
You
submitted-
wrote this.
The op-ed was
Yeah.
2 submittals, yes, because we were being interviewed and he wanted, it was easier if I just wrote it down.
So you sat
Yeah.
there and typed that Counselor Hartman is not civil, accountable, or transparent.
I don't
Those were your
think it
thoughts,
says
right?
civil. Now, let's be careful.
Oh, I got it highlighted. But instead expect them to be civil, transparent, and accountable. When they are none of these things, I certainly question their actions. Counselors Matt Tracy, Anessa Hartman, and Tracy Todd made this claim, and they are the ones doing the targeting using assumptions as the basis of their accusations. Jump to the last section. I am not targeting counselors, but expect them to be civil, which they have not been.
Okay.
That's why I lost it a little bit, I will admit.
Doing targeted use like assumptions. I am basically a single mom with a full-time job and this job. I'm not here to target any of you, honestly. Like, Jesus, like that is not okay. Like that is not okay to say.
Anessa, wait till you've had about 50, 60 phone calls and hearing the exact same thing on the phone. You aren't going to believe what Tammy just said about you. I've had 50 or 60 of those calls.
Yeah.
Saying that I'm trying to destroy the fire station, that I'm trying to sell out to Clackamas, that I don't like change. And the problem is every time you talk to somebody, they know me and call me up.
I honestly do not talk to very many people.
Well, then why do I, during this last election season and then the one where I was running, my phone rang every day. I was getting a couple calls. So how am I trying to destroy the fire station? And you know, I would never sell out to Clackamas because I'm not a sellout.
I know. I know you, Randy. I've known you for a long time.
Yeah, and I've known you for a long time and you completely changed when you became mayor,
Some things had to change, yes.
but
Absolutely.
that's not a good change. Change is important. We have to be making changes every day. Changes off of education and learning.
Perspective
when you
has
make-
to change. It does.
Excuse me?
Perspective has to change. It does.
Yes, through education and learning, not through making up your own rules, making up your own comments and saying whatever you want.
You and I can have a discussion.
I will never sit down with you, Tammy,
Right,
unless we have
so
somebody else in the room because I do not trust you
that's fine.
one bit.
All right.
I guess I had a question for you. When the first original email I got,
Mhm.
was there a reason you wrote that? Were you upset or, I mean, the first thing out of it says, I want to open an investigation to the 2020.
No, I was just saying, if that's what we need to do to get this done and over with, I mean, what's going to make this go away?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go away.
It's unfair. It's unfair to
Did you see
all
my
the parties.
reply?
I did, but
Counselor Bett or Counselor Tracy,
I wasn't
no
gonna
one
say
needs
that.
to rehash any of this.
they
anymore.
never should have.
We should walk out of this room and it should never be mentioned again,
And
as far
I,
as
and
I'm concerned.
And I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that the reason it's not going to be talked about again is because it doesn't need to be talked about again. And it's not fair to talk about it again. And that should have happened maybe back in May when it got mic dropped. Maybe that would have been a good time to say that. Instead, it's that we don't want accountability or transparency. So me saying, let's not talk about it again better be perceived because I don't believe that it needs to be talked about again. I believe that it doesn't need to move forward unless the only way to do it is to just dig it up again. And I don't think that's going to help anybody.
I know it won't.
Mhm.
So that's why I
Mhm.
just wondered why you had put that in there. I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it was just like, do you see what I'm saying? That it's like, if
If we have to, but we don't need to. So,
I don't-
yeah.
I wouldn't think that we need to. The
Right.
people involved don't think that we need to.
Okay. Well,
But-
I'm just gonna bring it since we are talking, right?
Mhm.
Because I do talk to a lot of people, you all know that, and
Mm-hmm.
they say there seems to be a bias, and I'm just gonna give you one example they gave me, and I said, I don't know, I won't speak for any of you. They said, had Bill Osborne talked to Jackie like this,
Mhm.
and then Matt Tracy was the one who released it, right? Would you guys be, well, Matt should have released it. It needed to be transparent. People should have known that. See, or would have been, no, Bill and Jackie worked it out, but because people know you guys don't like Bill either. So see what I'm saying with this, they know that, that's not no secret to anybody. You know.
I was saying that you don't like somebody, I like Bill. I don't like his behavior. I don't like his manipulation,
Right,
his
right.
deceit. If he wants to be honest, he can do a lot for the city. But he's
You're right,
skipping
yeah.
that being honest and being open and transparent.
Okay.
So
That's what I just wanted to know, 'cause
Zero
people ask me
communication,
about
we don't
that.
get together and talk.
They say if the roles were reversed, how do you think it would have went?
I
said,
mean,
don't-
I saw the
think-
screenshot that Bill wrote that on Facebook. You know,
I
I know that
I don't
that's where it
well,
came
know my
from.
neighbors, he saw today talking.
Understandable.
People want to know, would it have been reversed? And I said, I don't know. So we're here, we're talking. I'd just like to know what would have happened had it been. the
When
other
we
way around.
talked about this in the special session in May, I made it very clear that it didn't matter who the players were. This was against the rules in terms of client-attorney privilege information. And it was up to Administrator Betts. This is her story, not anyone else's, regardless of I want the truth out there. It would have been anybody.
Okay. Well, there you go. Some people watching now will get the answer.
I
Yeah,
think a
that's
lot
why-
of the people watching now know that answer.
Yeah, well,
And that's why I wanted it here, just like, let's just say it, just get
That's
this
what
stuff
I'm
out.
doing. Just
I
saying it,
agree.
so I don't have to
Great,
carry it or
great, Councilor
say I don't
Alexander.
know or do whatever, I'm
Mhm.
I'm putting it out there. And that's why, and the other one I'm putting out, I just want to know, how come we're doing this one in person is all?
Because it seemed like we did this before in our special session so that we could have a moment to talk face to face
Okay,
and not have to
okay.
go from Brady Bunch Square to Brady Bunch
All right,
Square.
that's the answer. That's
Uh-huh.
what I wanted to know, because right here it says, they'll be held virtually, and I talked to all the other cities that Jackie put in the thing, and they've all been having their council meetings in person. For the last-
Even recently, like as of this past week, because I
ye-
heard that changed with the Delta variant. I thought
Well,
that
that's, they said now it would be up to the council, but the
Mhm.
last 2 months they did do them in
Mhm.
person. They said now it'll be up to the council with this
Mhm.
Delta variance. But I just, we haven't ever, people ask me, why'd we spend all the money on this thing? We don't
Well,
sit
who
up
knew
there."
there was going to be a global pandemic?
Right,
And look
I
how close
understand.
those seats are right there. And
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody here is vaccinated or, what.
I
what
got
kind
mine
of-
at the fire station.
I know, I texted you, remember? I said, go get it. No, I'm just saying. So that, I mean, that's a lot closer than,
Okay.
and what we're doing here.
These are questions. I don't have the answer
Well,
to.
and I think maybe the dynamic of being in person is important in these kinds of conversations, because I don't
Okay.
think you really get the visceral feeling when you're on a screen.
Mhm.
And I mean, it feels like we've got 2 recalls going.
Mhm.
And I want to say on the record, get out there, get signatures on mine. I'm happy to get on that ballot, and get voted off the island. I'm good with that. But we have 2 recalls going. And we have a city that's dysfunctional. It's very obvious to a lot of folks.
Exactly.
And I have a problem with us being front page fodder of a local newspaper that, quite frankly, I'm not even sure whether there's any journalistic integrity with that particular newspaper. And I'm sorry to say that. I think there's some good stories in there. I don't think I've seen very many good stories about Gladstone, save for, I think there was one 2 weeks ago about the school district and maybe some moves that we'd made there. But honestly, it's been pretty shabby. So we have citizens that are watching us, and then they're reading in the newspaper, and they're seeing the dysfunction, and we have 2 we have a counselor getting recalled and a mayor getting recalled. That, woohoo, that's a great legacy to leave, man. I'll tell you what, on the leadership scale, that is way down here, way down there.
I get you.
And we have citizens now that are sitting at home potentially or possibly, or they're going to hear about it tomorrow, and they're going to still say, okay, but what did they do? They got together.
Yeah.
And, and Tammy, our mayor, sorry, there's some stuff that we're talking about, but it's not, obviously, it's not all on you. We have to make adjustments in the way we lead and the way we work on the city council. I understand that. But these folks are looking at us and going, what now?
I wrote it in my
What now?
reply. Remember, a lot of eyes are on us and
Sure,
I'm getting a lot of
sure.
questions, and we need to actually, I
Sure.
can't say the word.
But how do you-
We've got to do this somehow.
But counselor, how do you do that when you're in this situation, right? This is where we are. So how do you turn the ship away from the rocks? Because right now I think it's kind of headed towards the rocks.
Okay, well, here's one thing I know that I got a lot of ideas and a lot of things I've done and put together. It's from the citizens. There's a lot of, you can have us sitting here, 7 of us, or we can ask 300 people out there what they think. And I'm sure someone's got a
Well,
good idea. that
They're gonna
might
have great
make us
ideas, and
stand.
most of them will probably say, sit down and act like adults and actually do your work.
Yeah.
Don't keep going to the paper,
Well,
and don't keep bringing our city onto the front page as fodder for a
Right.
newspaper.
right.
I mean,
Well, and be a little nicer on Facebook and next door, I mean,
Well-
there's some bad, I got some pretty bad screenshots, but I don't never brought them up, never called for a meeting, never did nothing, because it doesn't benefit us as a council.
From
And I'm
people
not
in
gonna
this
do
room?
that. I'm
From-
not gonna do that.
Are those things you're talking about people in this room, or are they from citizens?
They're from a wide variety of people that have made.
Well, no, I
comments,
asked just
yeah.
because we're here to talk about us
Yeah,
and how
Well-
we're going to move forward and work together.
yeah,
And to my knowledge, I have not seen anything negative.
yeah,
I mean, put it out on the table.
you want me to get my phone out and do that? Is
Well,
that
I
what
mean,
we
like,
wanna
that's
do?
why we're here. If we're supposed to move forward and,
Well,
and
then,
you, and, but
well,
seriously,
you've already taken your Facebook off, right? Am I correct?
no, I just don't go on it anymore.
Oh, okay.
But like, I
okay.
guess as everyone's watching, you made a statement that people are on social media being mean or whatever it may be.
They're saying some
They're
not so
gonna
nice things.
take that and like the optics of that, like they can take that and spin it and make their own narrative. So I mean, personally, I think we should just set the narrative, our own narrative. And if there are people in this room that are talking poorly, then let's talk about it. I mean, like, what got that person to that point to say those things?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody. That's the whole thing. And I can't, but I get the screenshots, I read them, and I don't bring them up. I don't mention them. I'm doing it now because it's got to stop all across the board. Like man said, we don't need to have any social media negativity. We don't need any media negativity. We don't need any talking to your friends negativity out there. We just don't, this council can't afford any more of it. That's all there is to it. So, I mean, I guess, I think Mindy's idea of having oversight, and if that starts or someone sees it, let the oversight people make up the consequences for what happens to that. And then, listen, this is the deal. You already knew it. You chose
Right.
us to oversee this, and this is what we're seeing, and we don't like it, and this is what's going to happen to you. We're going to censure you. You don't get to do that. Let them do it.
Right.
If there's some accountability, I think it lessens the chance of it happening.
But
don't
you
do
know
that.
that we can censure people now.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way we can hold each other accountable
Right.
is any of us can make a motion to censure anybody.
Right. But that would only look worse too. I mean, like Matt said, they want us to,
Sometimes
they
if
want
we-
us to
if we're
grow
trying
up.
to prevent something from looking worse, we're covering up a pile of something. Sometimes if the mess is there, you gotta clean it up.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Everybody's got it, but everybody's got to clean it up. Everybody's got, I won't post this. I won't go to the media. I won't talk about you or you or you to someone down the street. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to agree to that and actually stick to it, or it never works, or it'll never work.
Never
I mean,
has
to
to.
But I
me,
thought we already agreed to that.
We
We did
did, but
numerous
something
times.
went south. So, I mean, so what do we, that's what I'm saying. I don't have the answer, but I'm saying people out there, I bet people watching this meeting, or if people watch it later next week, 2 weeks from now, there's people that have answers. And if anyone is out there watching and has an answer that'll help us, let us know. I'm open to all suggestions.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is if you could do it over, would you still run?
Right now?
Yeah.
No.
How many here don't want, how many here would never rerun for a position on this council?
And who?
Nobody here would.
I wouldn't.
I
Would you?
I got things to do.
All right,
I
well,
want
good,
parks,
good.
I want
Go. And
sidewalks.
And that's
I
good if
want-
if you have things to do and you let the council know what your agenda is, because then we can help you if it's important stuff. But when it's secret agenda stuff going on and manipulation and deceit and lying that continues to happen and happen and happen, we're not getting anywhere.
And nobody else is gonna want to run, seeing the shape we're in right now in a year and a half or whatever. Who's gonna run? I'm not gonna run. I don't want to be part of that, you know, so it's
Yeah.
it's gotta be a.
They keep going back to the same thing. It's policy. I never thought we actually disagreed very much on policy or what's good for the city. We're trying to drive stuff forward. This other stuff just gets in the way of it. I mean, it's not about like a decision on the nature park or a decision on Mildred Bar. We all struggle with the policy decisions and what we have to put in place. But then all of it gets basically overshadowed by the rest of the stuff. And yeah, it's a difficult time in our country.
I agree.
You know, now the middle finger is pretty much the response to anything and everything. We don't have to be like that in this town, but we're gonna be like that apparently. And so here we are. You know, disagreements over who visits our town or wave a flag, those can be conversations. That can be political discourse. We can talk about it. We can't even get to that point. It's just gonna be your side, my side, put the stake in the ground, grab the shield, grab the sword, and that's how we're gonna do business in Gladstone. And then you have a newspaper that's capitalizing on that because they're just getting all giddy about it, and then get them on the front page because it looks good for the newspaper. Look, Gladstone's at it again. They can't get their stuff together. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Oh, you
It's
and I had that
embarrassing.
conversation, didn't we? About I got
Yeah.
family members and stuff. You know what I mean? It is
But we're not disagreeing on policy. That's the thing that's, you know, that's mind blowing for me is that, you know, in a lot of political organizations, political structures, people that disagree highly on policy, they go to the newspaper and they fight with each other in the newspaper over policy. This is, you know, somebody had a conversation or somebody did this or somebody saw that or somebody didn't put the proper pronoun, whatever, here we go. And, you know, I respect that. I mean, if it's like we're disrespecting our citizens, of course they should call us on it. I mean, I believe in that. That's the accountability. An accountability committee overseeing the council, why don't they just be the city council? We'll call it a day for the rest of us. Because honestly, you just have a committee overseeing a committee. I'm not necessarily sure that always works out to the best for the city. I mean, what teeth do they have? What teeth would we give them,
Yeah.
right?
And that was what came up in the March 2020 conversation
Right.
during the council meeting. I had to go and watch it because I never remembered talking about it, and it was because I wasn't there. But I watched it, and that it was the verbiage. It was what would it look like? What could it possibly be? Who would these people be? Because we already have a hard enough time getting volunteers on a lot of different committees, right? And so is it the same, basically, nothing against the people who volunteer on multiple committees, but is it the same
Like a-
5 people, you know, that are on all those things? And so that was more of what the conversation would look like, that would at least take maybe us out of it. But what if it's not even taking us out of it? What if we just have clear, concise rules of, you know, we get this thing, this is what we do, instead of like, I didn't know how anybody voted about going to having an executive session last August, because it all goes to, we're not supposed to reply all, right? So you don't,
Right.
you don't know what's happening. You don't know if anybody's replying.
That's
You don't
true.
know what
That's a good. that's a
it's
good
going
point.
to our council. And so I'm, you know, there's so many times that I mean, I think probably the only time I ever get a hold of Randy is like, you might want to check your email, because I know that for you, it's not on your phone, like it's not on my phone or anything like that. We have to like physically go look at it to keep stuff separate.
And if we're coming off the rails,
Mhm.
we have great, you know, we have great department heads, great, great chiefs, great department heads, great city administrator, we start coming off the rails, our city's not gonna be very appealing to the professionals. I
Yeah.
mean, it really won't be.
You think
Nobody
more,
wants to sit through this.
you think more, I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there. There's gotta be, somebody's gotta throw something, more work sessions like this, maybe sit around, talk like this and
I think they couldn't.
and open up some stuff and say what you gotta say what you feel. That's
Well,
what's gotta
say
happen.
what you feel, but honor your word. I don't think
Right.
that happened.
Well,
with,
it'd be a lot easier to actually know what was going on if the railroad wasn't coming through every time something comes up. We only get pieces of information, and we get the pieces of information that a department head wants us to know, or the city administrator wants us to know, and we're missing all kinds of information. I heard that everybody got called to Jackie's office to talk about the last vote for the fire department, for the remodel on the kitchen.
I don't remember that.
And I believe and she's done this several times. She's creating serial meetings and lobbying city councilors. And she's even made the comment to have department heads sit with city councilors so they can convince them of something.
Yeah, but I think
But
yeah, I don't know.
so
Did not
The ci-
everyone have that conversation?
she never talked to me.
I was at that meeting. They called me.
But yeah, I was on Zoom. I thought it was just like, here's what we're gonna present to give like a mini work session, like here's more information. And then that's how I took it.
Yeah, I
thought
never heard
everybody
one
did
word
it.
about it because she knew she wasn't gonna be able to lobby me.
Well, she said she had
Oh.
set appointments with everybody.
Nope.
So that's not correct.
Nope.
I thought you missed.
But is there a line of would you consider that lobbying if the city administrator and department heads are trying to convince city councilors of a vote?
So just 2 points of clarification. One is that a serial meeting only occurs when staff is being used as a conduit for you all to deliberate. So staff can come and have one-on-one meetings and present information to you. If you want to use the word lobby, if you want to use the word present information, whatever word you want to use, that's completely and absolutely legal under the public meeting laws. What they can't do is go to you and say, well, I talked to Councilor Alexander, Councilor Tracy, Councilor Todd, Councilor Hartman, Councilor, who am I forgetting? I forgot somebody. Garlington, sorry. I was doing it in my head. I should just.
Right.
And this is what they think, because when you start sharing what people think, that's what causes the serial meeting. But
And
the
that's
one-on-one
what-
meetings, the direct meetings where they're providing information and they're saying, here's what staff believes is the best outcome or best result, is absolutely appropriate under the public meeting laws.
Okay.
And we
Um,
Okay,
make
that did not
informed
happen.
decisions.
That I never felt that.
Well, to me, it becomes lobbying or a serial meeting when you exclude a counselor because you know what his opinion is. And you know that when she says, oh, the department can't do that, and you call her out, that's happened several times. But she's only giving you the information she wants you to have. Tammy's only giving you the information she wants you to have. Matt's giving you the information. I'm giving the information from what I see about stuff. We don't ever get the full picture.
So
But I will
So how
have to
could we-
say that at that point, I think that somebody has to trust me to pull it all together and make my own judgment as well. I mean, I'd like to think that I have enough smarts
Well,
to do
you
that.
don't-
if I
I'll-
could
I'll
just-
tell you right now, nobody does. If you don't have all the information,
Oh, I see.
you
what you're
can't
saying.
make a
Okay.
decision. But we don't get all the information. I heard a rumor the other day, the fire department's looking at hiring a secretary.
So Councilor Rippey,
So,
if I could just interject one thing, is that, without the city administrator or any department heads being here, I think we should give them an opportunity to maybe reach out to you directly and sort of explain what happened. Because you're right, they should not be excluding any one counselor. If they're going to have one-on-one meetings, they should offer that invitation to everyone. And maybe there was some miscommunication here, or maybe something happened. And I think that's certainly something I'm willing to bet that they will follow up with you on tomorrow.
The whole point of this, if we actually had work sessions and the counselors actually talked, she wouldn't need to be.
Instead of having the one-on-one meetings.
She'd be lobbying city
Yeah.
councilors. And
Eh.
the other thing that used to always happen is department heads showed up to the city council meeting. But we don't want that to happen because that might give somebody the opportunity to ask them a question. Then we might actually get a different answer than we're being told.
And I think there are
There's
ways.
a bunch of weird things going on. When you really start adding everything together, the manipulation is deep.
Yeah, and I think there's ways to address all those issues if the council as a body wants to do so. And so you could have a process where you have questions and you submit them, or you could schedule work sessions like you're talking about instead of having one-on-one meetings. There's ways to do that. It's just always a balance of sort of what each council feels is the most appropriate for how they work. Some councils don't like that because it takes up too much time. They prefer the one-on-one meetings because they don't want to listen to the 40 questions that I have when when they don't really think that information is relevant for their decision-making process. But that's a decision that you all as a body should make about what works for you, because what works in one city doesn't necessarily work for you all. And so I think it's important to have that discussion, if that's something you want, to give that feedback to staff so they can provide you that service. Because my experience in working with your staff is that they want to provide you with all the information that you want, and they want to give you the service that you want to be able to serve the community. And if you give them that feedback, I am willing to bet you that they will do those activities. So I think it's important to have that discussion amongst yourselves and figure out what it is that you all think is the best process. And if that's more work sessions like you and Councilor Alexander seem to be suggesting, then I'm willing to bet that staff will absolutely 100% support that decision as well.
I would hope so, because it's really hard to make a decision on something when you know you're only getting pieces of information, because there's zero communication here.
Well,
don't get
have
together
made
and
a
talk.
point Of having department heads sit on our city council meetings if there's topics that's related to them directly. So we do have.
If they're saying something, but otherwise you don't hear from them.
Right, only if there's an
So
agenda item
if,
that relates to them.
We
yes.
keep saying, I'm not getting off track, but we keep saying the fire department is unsustainable. Yet she petitioned or lobbied or whatever you want to say, the counselors to convince them to do a remodel on a building using some bathrooms as an excuse, which we already did that a few years ago off of grant, and we got ADA compliant bathrooms. Yet we're still, it's mind boggling if you were to actually step back and watch what goes on around here. It's absolutely mind boggling. You can't make a decision if you have half the information.
That's
And
true.
if nobody talks, the whole reason we get together is because I might know something. I bring it up. Matt might bring some up, start the conversation. Well, what about this? Well, you just changed my perspective. Then Inessa brings something up. But if we never talk, we're inviting the railroad to ram right through every single one of these city council meetings. Nothing ever gets done. Nothing gets accomplished. We have a community that I'm surprised we haven't seen houses burned down on city councilors. It's that out of control.
Well, I think too that, and I know you can't use COVID as an excuse for everything, but in my job, I have never not gone to work since COVID began. I have gotten in my car every day and gone to work every single solitary day. And this, after going to council meetings forever and then running for city council, I was expecting that we would have city council meetings, and we haven't. And there is a feeling of disconnect when you're in these Zoom meetings. I don't do them as well as maybe some people who are used to it with their job and their kids, and their everyday life is that computer screen, and that's not me. And so I acknowledge that part of any disconnect I have is probably 50% on me, because I'm not used to that type of communication. And I would prefer to have meetings in person, because I think that the conversations are much better.
They are, I agree.
And I'm willing to sit 6 feet apart and wear a mask if that's what it takes. I don't have an issue with that. By the same token, we are under the mandate of the state of Oregon, and if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. I mean,
Yeah, I think we're going to be getting new mandates coming down shortly for elected, if not elected officials, but public offices.
yeah, it's not, that part of it is not easy. Like somebody had said, talking like we're on that Brady Bunch screen, and
Yeah.
it's just not easy that way. I don't feel like we've had good conversations.
It's far
At
less
all.
collaborative for sure.
No,
Exactly.
You
yeah,
know,
it's
you're
short,
waiting for,
cut,
you know,
yeah.
okay.
When it's not the
now-
appropriate time for some conversations.
I agree.
City council meetings shouldn't last for hours. The conversations should have happened prior to that meeting. Because once you have the conversations, if me and Matt have a conversation on something, and he says something or I say something and one little light pops in one of our heads, we don't want to instantly make a vote on it. Maybe I'm gonna change my research and how I'm looking into something. But we don't have time to make any of those excellent, responsible decisions when there's zero communication.
Right, I hear what you're saying.
The more the better always. I mean, so many ideas come from so many different people that I don't have them
Mhm.
all. You don't have them all. No one sitting here does, but I guarantee there's people out there that have great solutions and answers to what we need.
Yep.
So that's why I like to talk to everybody all the time. Because I get a lot of good ideas. So we came here today, we've got a problem, we acknowledge the problem. Did anyone bring a solution?
Stop talking poorly about each other in the media
That's, well,
is what we all agreed to in the first place.
yeah, yeah. We can all stop talking about everything. I mean, I don't know, just how about if we tried supporting each other? I mean, actually supporting each other. If someone's, I heard this or they said that, say, listen, you don't know the whole story and I'd rather you not talk about a city, a fellow council like that. That's what I do. And I tell a bunch of people, I can't answer for them. I don't have an answer. You can reach for them. Here's their city email.
Do you really, Greg?
I
'Cause
do.
I mean, you know.
What, Matt? Tell
Well,
me.
I mean, honestly, it's like you and I covered this before too, but I mean, you know, there are bylines for people who have submitted information to the paper with people's names in it, quoted, you know, had their quotes about.
Oh, yeah, and I
me
did.
And, I mean,
I did before.
And I don't see my byline.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, so the proof is in the pudding to me. Like I'm getting tired. I'll tell you what I'm tired of. I'm tired of empiricism being treated as though it's fantasy. This is reality. I'm not in here saying anything about you or Randy or Counselor Todd or even the mayor. But then what I'm told is, oh, what you're reading that's not real. Well, yeah, it is real. It's right there in print. I mean, you've done it.
I did. I
Mayor's
told
done it.
them.
I mean, so what I'm saying to you is like, you have to, I mean, honestly saying I'm not out there doing it. Well,
Oh,
you were at one time.
Thank you, because
Okay, so
before I
it's
was
like-
on the council,
Right.
I
you were at
was.
one time.
I have not done it on the council since I've
I
been elected.
appreciate that, Greg, and I agree with you. And I think what you did was probably the thing that most of us do is like, maybe if I did that, that's not a good idea. Maybe that wouldn't be really paying homage, you know, true respect and homage.
And
to
it
a
wouldn't
fellow counselor.
coincide with what we talked about in January. So I don't do it.
Okay,
That's what I'm
and so I guess, you know, like this, where's the use for this, really? I mean, to Counselor Ripley, while you were just talking about the conversations we do and don't have, I was thinking, wow, I mean, he's pointing out that we're so embroiled in these other conversations that we're not even actually conducting the business and being able to sit down, any of us, one or two of us, and talking about like your concerns for the fire department.
Mhm.
You haven't had the opportunity to actually, and you and I know this because we talked about like, we haven't talked about.
We've
the
been
fire
talking about
department.
this for 3 years
3 years.
and there hasn't
3
been a lot of
years.
conversation.
Exactly. Agreed. And I think part of it is because I'm focusing on like other things. One thing was like saving my career. That was fun.
Oh, I
That was-
bet.
That was a hoot,
Yes.
a hoot. Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, people know me.
Yep.
And appreciated, you know, when you said what you said, I was like, wow, we still haven't had that conversation. Like you and I haven't had that conversation
No.
that we've talked about having for 3 years.
And I actually had part of it with Mindy and Greg yesterday. And then we talked about some ideas of the parks.
So, you know, we are putting this stuff in the paper. We are doing this. We are responding to it. Yes, there's lots of Facebook posts with lots of ugliness about flag waves and what have you. You know, and I think as a council, for leadership of this council especially, we ought to just lead. You know, take our opinions about whatever the flag wave is and what have you, support your group. Doesn't matter if somebody is over on McLaughlin, somebody's over on Portland Avenue. In good political discourse, we can all get together and go, hey, I was with this group and hey, I was with this group. What did you find out about the group you were with? Who, the people you support, what do they want? Because honestly, those folks aren't talking either, are they?
No.
Right? And it's up to the leadership in this city to actually talk. And if I'm on McLaughlin or you're on McLaughlin, Greg, whoever's on McLaughlin and somebody's sitting in front of, you know, Happy Rock Roasters, instead of pointing the finger, and I think you made it clear to me yesterday in your part, in our conversation, go find out what
I did,
what they
yeah,
want,
both
right?
sides.
Well,
spent
and
time
I
with
will
both
say,
sides.
I will not go to a certain side. And
Okay,
that's just me.
okay.
But I certainly would sit down with you and listen to what you're trying to tell me is the other side's of view. And that's part of leadership. That's
Yeah.
part of learning about moving your community forward and doing what you can. Because honestly, we don't want this. We certainly don't want an escalation.
No.
in this particular situation, right?
No,
So
we don't
it's
want
kind
any.
of up to
any
us to
kinda-
kind of help steer this, and I don't think we're being very good at it. I just throw that out on the table. So, yeah,
I spoke to both sides, like I told you, and I told you what they both had to say, and it was peaceful. I was with the police at the end, and they said, no events.
Right,
It
and-
worked out great. I
and-
said, good, both people got to speak, and it was peaceful and kind, and
and it's an
Nice, so-
emotionally charged topic, and it's an emotionally charged topic that created the issues last year. And it was what we were managing and trying to go through and show some integrity with understanding the topic. And no, some people made some opinion. Some people said things that probably didn't go over well with certain members. That's in the community. That's fine, right? You can work through some of that stuff.
Right.
But you still got to lead. You still have to act like you're at least interested, because as I've always said, whether or not they voted for me or not, they're my constituent.
right.
You know, we're not districted here, so Randy's got, what, 11,000 and some change in constituents, almost 12,000. So do you, so do me, you know, so does Counselor Todd, so does Counselor Hartman, the mayor. Right? There are folks who didn't vote for me, who still expect me to do the city's business.
Exactly. That's what I told you yesterday, right? People I've met and talked to that haven't voted for me, that
Right.
still want this and that, and they want to see what I can do to make
So-
it happen.
So that's where we are.
Yeah.
So how do we lead ourselves out of this is the question, and I don't know what the answer is.
I don't either.
Well,
That's
you
it.
guys show me how to be the mayor of a city when you have a group of people that are constantly attacking you and now doing a recall. And it's going to be uglier before it gets better, because now he being Steve Johnson, has put a public records request in for every single one of my emails, every single one of the notes that I've ever taken.
You
It
get,
doesn't end. And this is a
I
topic
know
that I
that.
get every single day.
I respect that, Mayor, but you're gonna get very little sympathy from me because you were
No.
involved with the first recall with the two counselors, and I'd heard through the grapevine that you wanted to recall Mayor Jacobellis. So
No,
I'm,
I did not want to recall.
okay,
Mayor
and so
Jake
thank you
Bellis
for
at all.
clarifying, because
I
if that's not the
told
case, then
him
I
that someone
appreciate
had
it.
approached me to recall him.
I
and
appreciate that.
Warned him of that. And I did not publicly say a word about the Steve Johnson
Okay.
Sigmund. Not at all.
Okay, but there is
Not one
complicity
bit.
with supporting from the behind the curtain. There is complicity. with that. Just like I will say,
Because I associate with the people that did the recall. Not everything is on my shoulders. It's not, even though people like to put it there. It's not.
Okay.
Guilty by association is not fair.
no,
Judged by the company you keep. I mean, our
That's not
children know
fair.
that.
That's
How is
not
that?
fair. So, no, guilty by associate, because I have a lot of friends. If I have a friend that is a Proud Boy, for instance, I'm
Mhm.
just throwing it out there, it's not true.
Mhm.
Then suddenly I become a Proud Boy. No, that's not true. We may have conversations completely unrelated to that, and they can still be my friend, and we can have completely opposite opinions of something,
Mhm.
but they can still be my friend.
Would you endorse them in a voter's pamphlet? Somebody who you once wrote a opinion piece about after Oregon ethics complaint was filed against us, and then 6 months later, you endorsed the same person? See where that, Bill Osborne?
I disagreed with him on the ethics complaint wholeheartedly, but I talked to him and I know why he did it. I can accept that. I had to go down just like you and Matt did. All three of us had to take time off, the potential of having to get an attorney all on our own to fight that. But I know why he did it.
It was a $7,300 bill to the city. And
Oh,
had
I
had
absolutely.
I have put my name on it, I went down there like a dummy without any attorney.
Oh.
And had I, that would have been another 10,000. So what was the
Absolutely.
reason? What was the big lesson we were supposed to learn from that?
He felt that we were not being transparent or accountable.
Oh,
I agree with him.
in that situation?
Us
When
being
he said-
transparent and accountable.
No, in that situation. That situation.
No, I don't agree with what he did, but
Okay.
with this comment, yes, I do agree with his comment.
No idea.
The
what you're talking
ethics
about.
complaint, because we did not let Matt or Bill into an executive session with a press pass that he downloaded off the internet for free.
Oh, okay.
And he filed a
Well, if you
complaint
went to
against
Salem,
us.
you'd remember it. It was pretty fun.
That was the sixth time that
Mhm.
I've been down there because of things that Steve Johnson and his team have filed against me.
They filed against me.
Yeah, recently.
You knew about it?
No,
Oh,
they filed what against you?
an ethics complaint.
Oh, did they look at your statement of economic impact?
No.
No.
Because you did that to me. So you see what I'm saying? There's stuff that we just need to,
I
Are you
filed an
motioning for Counselor Garrington to get closer to the mic there?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
My
Sorry.
apologies. I didn't file any ethics complaints.
no, you reached out to the ethics commission because you said that the house that I lived in, I did not put down on, and I've never looked at anybody's ethics.
No, my question was, do we have to disclose properties that we own
Mhm.
on, or at the time, did you have to disclose a property that you owned that you didn't live in?
Right, but I lived in that house.
And it was cleared up?
Yeah.
It just looks, this is so ridiculous.
No, I just meant, I've never looked at
No,
anybody's.
it's like over and over,
Mhm.
gotcha, do I got you?
It's the grenades. That's
Yeah,
what I've
it's
been
fun.
calling it. It's the
It's a lot of
grenades.
fun. I haven't played this since maybe.
It's the grenades.
grade.
You're
That's
not
why I'm saying
such a
we need to-
freaking hero down there,
I'm
Matt,
not. You're
really?
right, but it's just.
So
like,
why
this
are
is-
you
this is my
laughing
point.
at us?
I'm
That's
la-
not fair
I'm-
to me.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, but
I'm
no
sorry, But I
thanks.
am laughing at it. I can't believe that it would come up.
I'm just saying, there's the gotchas, the gotchas, the
Yeah.
gotchas. So
Oh,
is it
believe me, yeah.
us? Is it us or is it outward, push? I mean, you said you were the biggest addict of this. What was the push? What did you get? What made you sort of be on that side of it? Wanting to always
Right.
write a byline and, you said you were the biggest addict of, you don't remember saying that?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
No,
right
the,
now.
the biggest addict of doing the gotchas to city council and.
No, I was never the biggest addict at that.
No,
I-
you
I
said
s- I
that.
said I wrote newspaper
No,
articles.
not this time. I'm talking about when we had our meeting, when we were all in here and we all apologized to each other and
Right?
you said how you had been in that group of and feeling of the picture taking and the showing up and what
That
was it?
That wasn't gotcha. That was people lie.
So you
I had
were,
proof.
okay,
what I
so
gave
that's what it
proof.
was.
That's what it was. It
Okay.
was proof, not because when I tell somebody something and they, oh, no, I didn't do it, then I
Mhm.
can pull up their screenshot and go,
Mhm.
so there's another, so-and-so in town. And then the picture, you guys weren't four of you sitting there. Well, shit, I can count all four of you in
Mhm.
this picture, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Mhm.
not a gotcha,
Right.
this is what happened. It shouldn't be happening.
Well,
here's the proof.
precisely. That shouldn't have
That's
been
how simple.
happening.
It's not a
No,
got nobody. I don't need to get anybody.
Not even the opinion piece. that you
Well,
wrote
we need to
about-
know.
Oh, I
how
wrote
we
an
wanna move
opinion piece. I
forward.
did all that.
It's
I
already
just
6:30.
I just spoke about that. I wrote all kinds of stuff. in the
I
paper.
just was asking
I
what your
wasn't a counsel.
motivation was from the outside, because you said you
Oh,
don't
to
do
get-
it now.
I
So-
don't know. Because
So what could,
I'm on the council now. It does me no good. It does no good. Nobody's sitting up here any good to go against anybody, nobody in this city, not their own council members, the city
Mhm.
citizens themselves. It does no good.
I know, I'm not trying to attack. I was wondering if you could give some insight as to sort of what was the motivation
At the time.
at that time,
I mean,
so that
taking the
maybe we could,
pictures,
no, just,
I'm not understanding.
Okay.
What was my motivation to write the articles?
yeah, and just sort of be,
Oh, to prove my point. I did enough work to have the proof right here.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I put in.
Uh-huh.
And if you read all my articles I wrote,
Uh-huh.
I got all the proof and I got it still in my shed out back. I can prove it all.
oh,
to
I
you. So
guess I don't know what we're
my-
talking about. so-
what is she saying? What does she want? I mean,
He was just asking what.
why I wrote the articles before I was a city council.
Yeah,
No,
I
what,
just-
what was your driver?
What's your motivation?
Why'd
Yeah.
you
Just
want
to
to
get
do
an
it? What-
insight
What made
and-
you
Oh,
turn
to
on
pro-
your
to-
computer?
Because to prove my point,
Just to prove a point?
just to prove my point.
Your point. And what was
My
your point?
My point was the things that I said in the paper and what I talked to people about
Uh-huh.
were things that I had proof of that I didn't like that was going on.
Okay.
And that was. that
Okay,
was my
so
point.
you felt validated.
I
in
felt,
all
oh,
this,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, to put it in the paper and to show proof and to take picture. I felt validated with all that because I just backed up everything I said.
Yeah, it wasn't, I'm not talking specifically about the picture.
Oh,
I'm saying,
okay.
there was articles written about
Yeah,
where
oh, yeah.
Matt worked and why
Right,
he was
I
on
did,
city
and I
council.
told Matt that, yes. We talked yesterday. You drove by and saw us.
Yeah.
And did I not tell you I was sorry about that?
No, we talked about it.
Cool. I was
Yeah.
just wondering what the motivation was.
The motivation, because like Randy said it, I'll tell you, oh, the real motivation?
Yeah,
I was uneducated and didn't know both sides of the story.
okay. See, that's what
Yeah,
I was
okay.
getting at. I wasn't trying
All
to.
right,
hide.
all right. Well, that's what
Sorry.
that's just.
So
I'll
that goes
admit,
back
I'll-
to our communication and actually have
Yeah.
a work session. It's the talking.
Right,
Yeah.
so now I get it.
And
that's
it's
what it is.
public, and it's public, and so that there can't be misconstruing. I
Right,
mean, even
right.
though I apparently was really bad at asking the question.
Well,
I'm,
no, I
so-
just
I'm
didn't
sorry, I'm
understand-
sorry.
I just didn't understand what you, I mean.
I just
that's-
wanted to know
Yeah.
what was it? Was it a lack of being able to hear us all?
Yeah, I didn't know the whole story and I jumped. I jumped before I
Mhm.
knew the whole story, had all my facts.
Okay.
But the facts I did have, and some of them I got proven wrong.
Mhm.
And that's when I said, I'm sorry, I didn't
Mhm.
know them and that's wrong. And I can say that to anybody. And I like, one of the phrases Counselor Hartman uses a lot,
Mhm.
you know, if you did it, own it.
Mhm.
I did it. I owned it. I apologized. I didn't know all the facts. I can apologize for anything I do that's wrong.
Mhm.
I have no problem whatsoever. Because I did it. You know?
All right, so it's 6:35 now, and we're just talking in loops about the same kind of stuff. Do we want to just have more work sessions? Is that going to be something that's going to help us for now? Do we need to think about options and come together at another work session and talk about steps moving forward? What do we want to do?
Well, I think it would be nice if you followed Counselor Alexander's suit in owning your comments and or apologizing for them. Or if you do indeed believe that myself, Counselor Todd, and Counselor Tracy are uncivil, not transparent or accountable. Because that really was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
If
and
I,
I'll apologize for anything I said after that because so if you have any screenshots of anything I said on social media, I will own it because that really sucked. So, I will apologize for that if that.
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
elephant in the room.
That's the only elephant in the room. Nothing else
From
has
my
been said on
perspective-
any Betty's part. That is the only thing that's the elephant in the room.
Well, I think that elephant in the room is a lot of people feel that you're not honest and you manipulate people.
I don't think a lot of people feel that. I know
And
you feel
you-
that and a couple people here.
Well,
feel
yeah,
that.
and I
Well,
could
I
prove
know
that
that
very
you-
easily, but that's pointless. It doesn't get us anywhere. But I think
So me
we're
defending
asking for-
myself for a recall that I certainly did not file against myself. 2 recall petitions that are
okay,
full of
wait, time out, Tammy.
information that is
Time out,
not
Tammy.
factual.
Can you stop for one second?
Yes.
You threw him under the bus twice. Who is it? Who's the person in this organization who would say, we need to have a meeting? There's only one person to call a meeting besides getting a group of counselors. Every time we should have talked, it should have been you saying we need to have a meeting.
What do you mean every time we should what? I
When
don't,
we have problems that you
Well,
want
I
to drum up from the past, we never talked about
so I
because you
should be
never called a
calling
meeting.
meetings constantly.
If there's something to talk about, yes, you're the mayor.
Okay, but unless I have other people that want to have a meeting too, it's pretty pointless to do that. If you all bring it to my attention that we need to have a meeting, then we will certainly.
I was accused of ignoring the situation because I didn't respond to one email after I already responded, yes, let's do this investigation. And then I heard everything's all done.
Okay,
I just lost my train of thought. It's easy to do when you're talking to somebody who everything just but literally bounces off and is a permanent victim.
well, I
You're
believe
not
that
always the
meeting was
victim.
not my call.
But you should have made that call. You were the mayor of Gladstone. You said there's a big problem. We should be having a discussion on this,
Chad, I
not
shouldn't have
blaming
made
other
that call.
people.
I
Then
was
who-
not, I
who-
was not in that position to make that call.
Who's supposed to be making decisions?
So you're talking about whether or not having an executive session or not?
No, if we
The
want to have a work
investigation.
session or a discussion or any conversation between counselors, if something comes up,
Just in general?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't make a habit of wanting to call meetings every week. When I became mayor before, they were having meetings multiple times a week. And I felt that was, and I campaigned on the fact that that makes this position undoable for most people. That being a city councilor, you need to be able to have a life and have a job aside from that city council position. So I made a commitment to minimize the executive sessions, minimize the work sessions, and really focus on city business, which is what I've tried to do. But if you all think that we need to have more meetings,
Yes,
By all means,
we
let me
need
know.
communication. We need to be able to talk about stuff
I-
and stop pushing our hidden agendas.
Can I add to this? And you tell me, Councilor Ripley, if I'm on track here. I think when the city's in crisis, I think that's what we're looking for as leadership. I think the
Yes.
Mayor needs to make a declaration if the city's in crisis and whether it's, let's say it's Councilor Hartman and Councilor Tracy are beating each other up in social media and it's starting to reverberate across the city. And so it's resonating with folks and we have folks coming back and attacking the mayor or attacking us if the city's in crisis and we've been in crisis a number of times. And quite frankly, I got to give you let's think about this. For a city that's got a pretty dysfunctional council, we handled a couple of major disasters this last
Mhm.
year
Very-
really well.
2 years, year and,
Well,
almost 2
yeah,
years.
going back a year and a half, Mayor, but let's just start, let's start with the clock in September last year when, you and I and everybody else were trying to get food to folks and we had 400 plus or 500 plus families coming into our community, right?
On a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were right there with us and we worked hand in hand, all of us did that. This is the way the council should work.
Yep.
And then, we went to the ice storm and you were, working at EOC. We had plenty of people out working on the ice storm. We did very well considering we were the most impacted small city in our region. We made it work.
We were we were
We were
rock
tested.
stars.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what people want.
Exactly.
And if we can do that and just have just a skosh of civility with each other, talking about the lack of civility, maybe we can fake it for another year and a half. I don't know if you want to run again, Mayor.
No.
Personally,
I'm moving out
I
of
don't-
Gladstone as a
I'm
matter
good and done.
So am I.
I'm good
Looking
and
for
done.
Property.
So like, if we could just do a year and a half of just trying to keep the train on the track and be civil to each other, fine. I'm really willing to walk out of here and go, okay, we've done it again. We've hit the timestamp. We pushed the go button. Have the discussions if we need to discuss things as counselors. That gives us the opportunity to do that because then we're not focusing on this other stuff, right, Randy? I mean,
Yeah.
right? Then maybe we can make it for the next year and a half. And maybe your legacy will be sound and the rest of us will be sound and we just go.
And the
But,
city will be sound.
And the city will,
be
right, and the
sound.
city will be
It's a
sound.
lot harder to fight and have, discontent amongst people when you're sitting in the same room with them and you're having conversations with them.
Right.
It's a lot harder to do that.
Right.
It is.
And so,
If we're in a
think-
crisis mode, I think the mayor should. And I'm not just putting this on you as the leader of the city, but you should have, it's your prerogative to contact us through Jackie or contact me or contact one of the other counselors and say, I think we have a problem here. I think we ought to get together and I think we ought to try to solve the problem. Because I think you get responses from the city council where it would be, yeah, let's get ahead of this before it turns into
Yeah.
whatever we're dealing with over and over every single.
But it's over and over again. And I am going to apologize if I've said something that upsets you guys. Seriously, I don't want to do that. But I have to tell you that have felt so attacked for so long. And part of it is from you guys. And Nessa, don't play that you're innocent because you are attacking too. And yes, there's been times when I have felt that you all aren't civil, accountable, and transparent. That's my perception. That's not yours. We're allowed to have opposite perceptions. That's okay. But I apologize for putting it in the newspaper. I wasn't expecting to be interviewed because I certainly wasn't expecting a recall, but I had not responded to the recall at all. And I felt it was time. I'm in defense mode on this and Matt is going to be in defense mode now too, because he's being recalled
But I'm not.
or not.
I'm not, absolutely
not,
not. In fact, like I
you
said,
know?
get out there and knock on doors for me, please.
Some of us fight really hard and give up so much to be in the positions that we're in. And you guys will know that. My family, my friends, my health, my education, my business, everything comes second to the city. It does. Absolutely. You've seen that, Greg.
Yeah.
You've seen that, Mindy. That's absolutely how I live and breathe, is that the city stuff comes first. And when I'm being attacked constantly by things that aren't even true, coupled with all the other things going on in my life, I'm gonna be defensive.
But I didn't.
So all
attack
this
you.
other stuff needs to stop.
Like, I'm not a part of this recall. I didn't attack you, but you automatically.
But I've been
group me
hearing,
in with-
I've been hearing differently. You know?
Pick
So-
up the
so
phone and ask.
I
You're the
am
only
on the
person in this
defense.
room that I haven't had a conversation with because you won't give me that opportunity.
I will talk to anybody at any time. Believe me, meet me at the grocery store. I'm usually there for an hour and a half because people stop me and want to talk.
Yeah, meet me at the playground because people stop me and want to talk there
Yeah.
as well. You're not the only one that has life outside of
I
this.
didn't say that I was. and
You
I'm
don't
saying
think I'm
all
on the
of us are.
defense?
I didn't say that you weren't. I'm saying that
But
I
it's not
am.
for the betterment of Gladstone that I
Being on
go
the
out.
defense.
That I go out and throw anyone who's disagreed with me under the bus. I'm never going to do that.
Okay.
I'm not. And I don't think that you should have either. I don't.
Okay, I'm saying I'm sorry if I
I
said
appreciate you
something that was,
apologizing.
but I'm in defense mode. I don't want to be in defense mode. Now, but I'm
Then-
going to continue to
then
be until
don't.
this is over.
Don't be in defense mode and throw half your council under the bus.
I'm going to be in defense mode and I'm going to, when the issues that they're bringing up in the recall are pertinent to the people that are sitting in this room, I have to defend myself.
How is anything of the recall pertinent to myself?
Council, I can give you the 2 petitions and we can go over it piece by piece. And we can also go over the letter that was sent to, I don't know how many people in Gladstone. There's a lot of stuff that's pertinent to the people sitting in this council room right now.
Did I sign it? Did I
No,
say that I
it's
support
the
that?
recall. Whether
Oh.
you signed it or not, it's out there.
Got it. So why didn't you throw Council Ripley, Council Alexander, Council Garlington under the bus as well, since
Can I
they're sitting
answer
in
that
this room?
question?
Sure.
The reason we don't talk about the fire department stuff is exact, there's your answer.
Is
Because
what?
if one person has knowledge in something, you don't want to bring that person around.
What?
We don't, if one person has knowledge, it's hard to manipulate a group if you bring somebody in who actually knows what they're talking about.
You're talking about my being in defense mode because of the recall?
You've been in the same mode since I've been elected. You've always been a permanent victim, but if we go over those newspaper articles, we could go over all of them and I could highlight everything that's an absolute lie that you've said about people, that
Okay.
you've said about a lot of, and see, you're acting, okay.
No, I'm,
Tammy, you can't tell me you don't know when you're being honest and when you're lying.
absolutely I do.
That's, if we could all just be honest in here, things would go so much smoother. And until we start being honest, we're not gonna get anywhere.
If you want honesty, the last meeting that we had was the best meeting that we've ever had. And it was led without bias, we collaborated, we had conversation, we laughed. And the amount of counselors from other cities that I heard from saying, wow, it looks like you guys had a functional meeting. That is my honesty. And the only denominator was that it wasn't being led by you.
The part that is dysfunctional in most meetings is the business from the audience piece. And because I was not leading the meeting, there was no reason for those people to come and attack. I watched the meeting too, and
I
I've
don't think
also
that
had
that's the
other
only reason
people
why.
call me and mention about the meeting.
That it went really well.
Because I was not there to be attacked. Yes,
Got it. That's the only reason?
that's the common denominator, is that when I'm at the meeting, this certain team of people like to come on and attack. Yes.
Kind of like Bill and Greg and a few other people did to Counselor Anise almost every month.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It's the same thing.
And don't act like you're innocent on all that, Tammy.
Well,
Again, everything is
One
on
thing
my
you gotta remember is
shoulders.
Gladstone is a small town. So when you
Everything is
hang
on
out
my
at certain
shoulders.
people's house quite a bit and people across the street see how much you're there, and then all of a sudden you stop when a recall starts and people are watching you.
I'm glad people are watching me. I stop at a lot of people's house. Well, no, not a lot of people, especially not anymore. But you have no idea the relationship or the issues that I have with particular individuals. Most
what's
often
your
it
issue
has
with me?
nothing to do.
I would
with
love
me.
to know why you talk so much stuff about me.
I
I've never done
I
anything
would
to
like to
you.
know, yeah, I would like to have that conversation. You don't want to have that conversation.
I will not have that conversation one-on-one
No,
because
somebody else
there's a
can do that.
serious trust
Absolutely.
issue because
Yes, I would like. to
there's
talk
not
to
one
you.
thing out of your mouth that it seems to be correct.
I would absolutely like to talk to you. Yes,
You remember what you said to me when you were running?
that was a long time ago and a lot of stuff has happened. No, I do not remember in particular what.
That doesn't
what I
surprise
said.
me.
That was 5
Compulsive
years
liars
ago.
don't remember what they're saying half the time, Tammy.
That was.
You know,
5
this
years
is,
ago,
this is
Randy.
a really, it was 28 years of my life that I gave this city and I got the kick in the butt because I wouldn't sell out for a paycheck. And then we avoid this conversation. The reason I ran for council was to try and preserve what was left of that fire department. Yet we're still making decisions that we can't afford to do and still moving in a direction. Because we have a conflict of interest with you being on the council.
And I do not make decisions for this financially for the fire department at all.
Well, when you're involved with budgets and other stuff, and you make a decision about public works, their budget is going to affect every budget. You are making decisions about all the budgets.
Oh,
But it
so I
prevents
shouldn't-
us from having communication. We can't talk about a department because your husband works there.
So I can't be involved in any budget whatsoever.
No, you shouldn't.
Okay, well, then that's definitely a conversation that we can have. And I think I.
There's
if I
not
remember
one
correctly, I
person
not
that
Voted on a couple budgets. because Steve Johnson has come forward and said that I would have a conflict of interest and he would file an ethics complaint.
Correct. So the way we do that is we segregate out the fire department budget and have that voted on first, so that issue's taken care of, and then allow her to participate on the rest of the budget. So
But I've
it-
also declined on, I
on
think the
doing
last two,
that. I don't recall.
Yeah, on the last
But-
two,
but
but
the
not the
ethics
one that gave your
commission-
husband the job. But see, that's what
I
I'm
did
talking
not
about. It's the
vote as a
honesty.
counselor
But
on the
it's the
budget
honesty
to
stuff,
give my
Tammy.
husband a job.
It's the way you present stuff. You present the facts you want people to know
Mhm.
to benefit what you want. You're a representative of the whole community. But just because you wanted a paid fire station, which you were talking about during the state Gladstone days, that's far back that I've heard comments from multiple people
Mhm. We can.
Everybody
absolutely have
that,
a conversation.
so we pushed 22 people out of the fire department. So 3 people could have a job. But we avoid these conversations because of conflict of interest with you.
We can absolutely have that conversation. I'm more than happy to have that conversation, but I want to have somebody from staff there that has the facts to make sure that our conversation is
So
accurate.
see, this is, everything here is an absolute waste of time. You're saying you want facts. I was saying I wanted the timelines for the fire department for data, and I was gonna build a numerical model so you guys
And they
could
were giving
actually
it to
see.
you.
A year and a half later,
I have
that
no
should have taken
control
5
over
minutes to
that.
pull that data. Well, you did have a lot of control on
I
it because
had
you made an
zero
issue
control over
wanting to
that.
know how much time it was gonna cost because you didn't want people to know.
How much time? I'm always.
This conversation, this isn't the time or place for this conversation.
All right.
There will be some of this next city council meeting.
Okay.
Because some of this deceit and lying, I'm gonna start calling out.
Okay.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I actually had this, Jackie asked me one day, she said, why don't you quit? She was, you're too honest to be on city council. That's kind of a powerful statement. Somebody's too honest to be on something.
Okay.
Why do people have that view of politicians? We were a little tiny city. People shouldn't have views like that of any of us. We should be here for the best of the city and want to listen to the city. I've put in a lot of my priorities, a lot of my ideas aside for 28 years given to the city.
Mhm.
I've been here 40 years, and just because you move in and don't want it. See, this is until the community actually starts knowing what's going on, the city's not gonna get anywhere. If we can't be honest and open and actually discuss stuff.
Okay.
And I have no problem with you not liking a volunteer department. No issue. If you would have came right up and said, I think it's a bad idea. I don't like it. I don't want to be here. I would respect you for having an honest opinion. But when you say one thing to me, then you say something to somebody else, and you say something to somebody else, and then you change it over here, there's nothing honest about that.
Okay.
You go around telling people the fire department's doing so great, right? And these changes happen when we could barely get a rig out the door and we have no personnel left. We can't be telling the community our department's doing great when it's not. Because it's an absolute lie. But if we can't start being honest, then we should all just walk out. Because it's absolutely ridiculous. My bet right now, if we continue the rate we're going, Gladstone will not be here in 5 or 10 years. It's going to be an area like Oak Lodge. When I started here, there was Oak Grove Fire Station. They were their own place. There was a Clackamas Station. There's Oregon City, all these different places. They're all going away.
Mhm.
We have a little tiny city on a fixed budget that we could only afford to do so much. So what are we going to sacrifice to keep these captain positions? Are we going to sacrifice police officers? That better not happen, because I know the difference between calling 911 in Gladstone and calling 911 in Clackamas County. Gladstone, you're going to get an officer there in a couple minutes. Clackamas County, it might be 45 minutes to an hour. We do not want Clackamas County in here. We want Gladstone police. We want Gladstone firefighters. With the last paper they wrote up, this is what you need to do with the fire station. We're taking ideas from paid chiefs that had nothing to do with volunteer fire departments. But we listen to what they say. Everything about my mind is twisted in knots that we have department heads that have to go out and what was that? We were talking about that earlier.
Go-
We don't know how to do anything. Consulting. Let's bring
Oh,
in
yeah,
a consultant.
Yeah.
We don't need a consultant to tell us anything in this town. You can go to any worker at Public Works and say, what's the worst street in Gladstone? They're gonna fire off in order 5 or 6, but we have to go to a consultant to get all this figured out. Then you try and bring something up and you say, well, no, that's in the 25-year plan. They're in our master plan. Why did I run for city council? Well, all we are is rubber stampers. We're reactive on everything. We don't bring anything forward. We have this master plan that's laid everything out for the next 25 years, so we really don't need to do anything. We need to stop relying on other people. If we can't figure things out for ourselves, we need to replace the people in those positions so people can figure it out.
Okay, well, now it's almost 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I
Well-
think that we need to probably end this and then at the next meeting, come to me with some ideas on whether we want to have more work sessions or what we want to do.
I like Matt's idea. Or Counselor.
All I'm saying is I think
Let's-
that if
let's
we
get
get into
along,
a
no.
position of crisis, I think that we probably need to at least converse.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
And have, and for a year and a half, yeah, let's show the city what we can offer 'em.
I mean, the choice is truly for you, mayor, and for me. If the required signatures are gathered, that's not all, right? You know that, I know that. So it goes to vote.
Yep.
Right. So if I'm voting as a citizen in Gladstone, I have an option of voting to recall Mayor Stemple or not. If from this set point on, it looks like we're actually doing the things where we're being transparent and we're, to Councilor Ripley's point, we're being honest, then the citizens are going to make decisions based on that.
Mhm.
Same for me, right? If the required number of signatures are there, we still have the opportunity to show them that we can lead.
We've got a lot of city business. We've got 2
We
ballot
have a lot of
measures in November that we
yes.
have to get behind.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done.
And the conversations that Randy, Councilor Ripley, and I need to have, we can have, because my capacity is greater when I'm not doing this and answering or, putting together text messages or screenshots or whatever, which, it's just really kind of a waste of time. The gotcha game just kind
Yeah.
of, it really sucks in this town.
It
And I'm
really does.
sorry that it's like this here. I've seen it in other towns too, but this town in particular, it seems to be pretty rampant. And so if we're not paying attention to that, Mayor, especially you just told us all, your dedication to the city is X, Y, and Z. So if you didn't have to pivot every time something came out or you felt like you were slighted, you can get a lot more done too.
Yep.
You can lead the city. Because that's what you were elected to do, was
Mhm.
lead the city.
Mhm.
And we're with you, but we can't be with you if we keep having to, step around the piles of stuff that are laid out in front of us. I mean,
Okay,
and forgive me, Counselor Garlington, if I'm laughing, because this is laughable to me. I'll be honest
Not
with
to
you.
me, so you're.
I understand that.
You're fine.
I understand
Whatever
that.
you want to say, you
Yeah.
just do that.
Chad, you have something?
So I was just gonna maybe take 2 minutes, and I know this is not necessarily the role of your legal advisor to do this, but you don't have any staff here. And I've been trying to take some notes and listen to you and sort of decipher that through the lens of someone who's been working with local governments who have gone through these issues and frankly worked with local governments who are extremely functional and get a lot done. And the one thing I will tell you is that despite all of this, as Councilor Tracy and the mayor both pointed out, you guys have had a lot of successes. You're sitting in one of them right here. And so I think you need to start with that foundation of saying we can get things done and we can do things good for the community. But I think there's a couple of things based on this conversation that you all should reflect upon to the extent that you can, and maybe work with each other about how to take next steps forward, because I don't think that this can be the end of the conversation, because this is sort of where we were last January and everything fell apart. And so I think the major thing is, how do you build enough trust with each other to be able to work with each other? Not to be friends, not to completely trust that, it's politics. You don't have to completely trust each other, but how do you have enough trust to work with each other to get these things done? And you need to think about that individually and collectively about what is it that needs to happen for that to occur. One thing I would suggest is, from an outsider coming in and having worked with the city when it was already pretty dysfunctional for the first time. My observation is that it's a game of war where no one is willing to just take the last shot. Everyone has to retaliate. And whether it's true or not, there are two factions within the city, on the council and within the city. And you associate with people, you talk to people on the playground or in the grocery store, they are your supporters, you endorse them, they endorse you. Right or wrong, the company you keep is who you're associated with. And when they are out there saying these things on social media or otherwise, and you're not telling them to knock it off, you are not providing that leadership to say stop. And from my perspective, this goes across the board. And I'm sorry if I'm overstepping any bounds here, but
No.
that is my perspective. That is leadership, is that you need to lead these folks and say, this is not what we want our city to be. We need to lead, and you need to tell people, as Greg did tonight, we're not going to do this anymore. We're stopping. We're not going to talk about this issue. There's a way to move forward and talk about the issues and have a policy discussion. If you have a debate on policy, great, but you don't have to personally attack each other, because my observation is as soon as one side attacks the other side has to retaliate. And maybe there's collusion, maybe there's not. Frankly, I have no idea and I don't care. I just know that it has a negative impact on the city, and it's having a negative impact on your staff. And there may be some staff that you don't like, but I can tell you from personal experience that you have an open managerial position that people called me about, and they were very qualified and very serious about wanting to apply, and they didn't apply because of this dysfunction going on in the city. Because they're worried that you have a city administrator who's going to quit because she's fed up. You're going to have other department heads who are extremely qualified who are going to leave when she leaves, and they don't want to take a job where someone who is going to be their boss and is really well respected is going to walk out, and they don't know who's going to come in, because you're not going to be able to recruit a qualified candidate to replace her if she leaves when you have this kind of dysfunction going on. Because no one wants to come work for a bunch of supervisors who are going to just be battling the entire time and they can't get work done. So you need to think about those things, about how you lead, so your supporters don't continue to attack each other. Because I think that is a way to build enough trust that you can actually work with each other. And then finally, I'm hearing a lot of discussion about communication and how you communicate with each other. And there's a lot of just assumptions of saying, well, I think you did this, or I think you did that. And you're not having those direct conversations. And everyone's saying, well, come talk to me, or I don't trust you enough to talk to you. Figure out a way to do it like adults do. I think Matt said that earlier, Councilor Tracy said that earlier. That's, again, I'm overstepping my bounds. I understand that, but from an outsider's perspective, I don't feel like people are acting like adults. Whether that's right or wrong, it's just something that people need to do through leadership and through your supporters. I mean, the mayor's exactly right. And I fully understand why when people attack her during public comment, that her and her supporters feel a need to respond. And whether or not other people colluded on that and got organized to have them attack her, or whether or not you agree with what they said, it's all irrelevant, because it's just perpetuating the attacks. And you got to just figure out a way to tamper that down, because otherwise you're never going to get anywhere. And then finally, I think having a discussion about communicating and how you communicate with staff and how you get information, and having that discussion about having more work sessions or having one-on-one meetings or whatever else needs to be done, so everyone is feeling heard and involved, is really important. Because I think when you have situations where any one counselor is feeling like they're being left out of the conversation, it automatically creates a situation of conspiracy theories and attack mode. And so you need to make sure that everyone is being included. And that is one of the major things I've seen in other cities where things have just really gone awry. So I'd really encourage you to focus on that as well. I'm done. I hope that's helpful. And if you guys want to get rid of us because I want to overstep my bounds, that's absolutely fine.
That was great.
Stuck.
Chad, I would rather you do that every month.
Do that every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An
Give us a
honest
good
opinion by
Yeah,
an honest
reminder doesn't
opinion
hurt,
by an
never.
outside person.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Okay.
there's society is so far off the rails. We always hear questions. You don't challenge authority. You don't question authority. When I was around the dive team, I wanted my people to question me because I wanted them to make the same decisions I made. I wanted them to know, not just make this point, you make this decision, but this is why I'm making the decision. But we have this issue. Oh, you don't challenge authority. You don't question authority. we should be questioning authority. Everybody in authority does, if they can't explain themselves or explain to you why they're making the decisions they're making, they shouldn't be there. But when you're in authority, if somebody comes up to you with a question, you might not realize how you're acting, how you're being perceived, or what you're doing unless somebody brings it up to you. But we always tell people, don't challenge authority. Just let them keep making a mistake. That doesn't help anything out. If somebody is making a mistake, we have to let them know, or we don't get anywhere.
All right, well, we're 7:05. Would
Yeah.
someone like to make a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Counselor Tracy, seconded by Counselor Todd to adjourn. Any discussion? Tammy, could you do roll call vote, please?
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, meeting adjourned at 7:05 PM.